I left without a word, the silence of my departure echoing through the empty spaces of our home, a place once filled with laughter and shared dreams. It was a decision forged in the heat of betrayal, a wound that cut deep when I discovered my wife's infidelity. The signs have been subtle, like shadows creeping into my consciousness. Small changes in her behavior, late nights at work, and the way her laughter had begun to sound distant. I tried to ignore these whispers of doubt, but they gnawed at my heart until I could no longer dismiss them. When the truth finally crashed over me, I found myself in an emotional storm, too shattered to confront her directly. Instead, I succumbed to despair, leaving in the dead of night, my heart heavy with anguish. I felt hollow, as if a part of me had been carved out, and the emptiness followed me like a dark cloud as I isolated myself in a new apartment. It was a stark contrast to the life I had shared with her, filled with memories that now felt tainted. The loneliness of my new surroundings amplified my turmoil. Each passing day a reminder of the love I had lost. Anger and confusion swirled within me, battling for dominance, while I grappled with the void she had left behind. I replayed our life together in my mind, searching for signs that I had missed, for moments when everything had begun to unravel. I spent sleepless nights staring at the ceiling, haunted by memories of her smile, her warmth, and the trust one had placed in her. As the months passed, I found myself lost in the blur of reflection and healing. I tried to piece my life back together, to find a semblance of normalcy, when unexpectedly, a message from her broke through the silence I had built around myself. My heart raced at the sight of her name on my phone. Curiosity mingled with the remnants of love and anger. What could she possibly want after all this time? Did she think that a simple message could bridge the chasm that had formed between us? When we finally met at a cafe, I was struck by the transformation in the air between us. She sat across from me, a look of regret etched on her face, her voice trembling as she spoke of longing and the mistake she had made. It was surreal to see her again after all that had transpired, and yet, as I listened to her words, I felt a profound disconnect. The woman I once loved felt like a stranger, and the familiarity that had once comforted me was now tainted by the reality of her actions. As she poured out her feelings, I began to peel back the layers of her words. I realized that what she felt was not true love, but rather a deep-seated regret. She was mourning the loss of the comfort and safety our relationship had provided. The truth hit me like a wave. She sought me as a safety net, someone to fall back on after her new life had crumbled around her. The weight of this realization settled heavily on my heart, yet it brought with it a strange sense of clarity. In that moment, I made a decision that would change everything. I chose not to reconcile, to not allow myself to be pulled back into a cycle of hurt and disappointment. I recognized that returning to her would only open old wounds, dragging me back into a relationship that had already proven to be fragile. Finding peace in my choice, I accepted the reality of our situation, understanding that if someone returns after betrayal, it often signifies a longing for the comfort of what was rather than genuine love for the person. It was a painful truth, one that liberated me from the chains of regret I had been carrying. I walked away from that cafe with a sense of closure, ready to embrace the future without the shadows of the past holding me back. The journey ahead was uncertain, but I felt a flicker of hope rekindling within me, a promise of new beginnings waiting just around the corner.